Hi, everyone. I'm Boris. I'll be the host for today's In Focus webinar. At mpmX, we strive to always give you the deepest insights into technological developments and cutting-edge trends in the process mining and the data and analytics sector. And so we want today. And we've chosen this platform, so LinkedIn, so many people can participate, and we want you to be able to interact with us. So if you have any questions, comments, just leave them in the comment section and we'll pick them up as we go along. I'm not going to be doing this show for you today alone. I've brought a colleague, Jan. Let me just quickly bring him to the stage. Hi, Jan.
Hi, Boris.
Please introduce yourself, and then we'll head deep first into OCPM.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. New format. You said it. I'm pretty excited to do this together with you today. My name is Jan. I'm with Mehrwerk for quite some time now. In the field of process mining lies my expertise, and hopefully I will be able to share some thoughts and insights about OCPM today.
All right, brilliant. Thanks very much. So we've already picked it up, OCPM. So it's obviously an abbreviation. I can imagine what the PM stands for, but why don't you let me know what the OC is for and how it's different?
Yeah, so OCPM stands for Object-Centric Process Mining. Yeah, so most of our auditorium today will know maybe what process mining itself is. What Object-Centric Process Mining is maybe new to everyone, or new to some folks at least. So what is different? Yeah, process mining itself is basically a technology that unveils how processes are being executed inside of source systems. Yeah, so that is what process mining does. And the technology itself gets basically enhanced through that object-centric process mining view, as we are now having different perspective out of which we can look at the process. Yeah, before we had one perspective, now we can have multiple perspectives at the time.
Okay, so I think this kind of like leads into what we want to talk about today, right? So just give you an idea about the structure. We'll quickly frame the topic that we're handling, and then we'll look at some customer value, look at how this technology actually creates value and how it differentiates. And we'll also talk about, if you think this is interesting, what do you need to get started and how you could get started, and then we'll tie it off. So it'll probably be out of here at around like 3:30 Central European time, depending on where you are, right? So you just said that it's different to classical process mining in that it is adding some dimensions to the perspective that you have on your business processes. What does this really mean?
Yeah, so what it does mean is basically what we do in the traditional process mining is we are ironing basically the processes and make them flat. Yeah, so we always have a one-to-one relation between certain activities. So I give you an example. So you have one purchase order. We will look to it later. So the purchase order header, and then the purchase order itself has maybe several items, and it gets shipped by 2 packages, and you get 1 invoice out of it. Yeah, so you have inside of a process, unfortunately, more than one than a one-to-one relation. Yeah, nevertheless, what we were doing in the past with the traditional process mining is always flattening it, and then in all everywhere where we had a one-to-many relationship, we had so-called loops. Yeah, we were reflecting to the process instance itself again. Yeah.
Okay, so
we have multiplication, depending in which direction we were flattening the iron. Yeah, so in the one direction we had just the multiplication, and the other one we had the loopings.
Okay, just to bring this back. So what this means is normally if you're looking at standard processes, I think somebody said, or I read it somewhere, case-centric process mining. So you're following a single case. And if we look at, for example, a customer or a purchase order, you always have like a header, so like the order as such, and then you have individual items on this order. It could be multiple, it could be different ones even. So, and in traditional case-centric process mining, you would have to decide on a case, right? So you would either be able to track the entire order or individual items without, or you would always have to make some sort of compromise if you would want to look at it in its entirety. Is that what you're
That's absolutely correct. And that's what I meant with the flat ironing. So the most important object that we had in the past, that was basically the center object that was defining your case ID. Yeah. So for some, it was maybe, if you work in logistics, it would have been the packaging. Yeah. For some that are in finance, maybe that's the invoice. Yeah. Or for others that are working in purchasing, it's the purchase order.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was dependent basically where your main target lies, in terms of analysis itself. And that the nice thing is basically everyone, every department can now work with it and can look onto the process out of their perspective without any additional doing to the data model or to the data itself.
Okay, so this means that we now have a way of representing business processes as they are in a way, or at least like more like they are than traditional process mining would. Does this make traditional process mining irrelevant or less useful? Or how do you understand, how do you put OCPM on the business analytics, process analytics map?
So OCPM can be used in basically two main ways, I would say. One of them is inside of an end-to-end process. So we were just referring to everything that's inside of an end-to-end process. Yeah, so one order has several items and so on. But then also it adds up to linking so far disconnected processes. Mm-hmm. And that is where then also a lot of the music plays. Yeah, as you are now be able to, for example, link, if you get a sales order from your client, and then you suddenly feel, oh yeah, we are out of stock for that items. We need to produce them. And then the production says, oh, some spare parts that we would need for the assembly are just not there. So it goes back to even to purchasing, even though we just created a sales order from the client. Yeah. And those link ups, they were absolutely in the dark. Yeah. So we had no view of them. So in that case, it adds more transparency to it. So process mining and also the traditional process mining always refers to transparency and an end-to-end view. Yeah. That end-to-end view was as good as it was possible to show. Yeah. Now we have a new possibility to show it. Okay. And it enhances it quite a bit. Yeah. So,
right, so what this means is, I understood that in the very simple example of like the order with the header and the items, this is like resolving some sort of issue when it comes to multiplication, creating loops. What that means, we'll maybe dive into a little bit later, but it's a problem when it comes to process analytics, right? So you have to make compromises. You get these compromises are further apart from reality, and therefore any actions that you would derive from these insights will probably either have some sort of false positive in them or just not be as applicable because they don't really get to the whole process. And so OCPM allows you to integrate multitude of these processes, have them talk to each other. And with this, like you said, end-to-end view, now you're able to actually track the process from one end across multiple processes until many ends probably. And therefore the insights and the actions that you derive from these insights will probably be far closer to reality and therefore create loads more value.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's exactly it. Maybe to the first part of your sentences, we had concerning this multiplication. Yeah. Process mining in the traditional way at some point was not showing the truth. Yeah. It was just not showing the real world as it was. And object-centric process mining can add the real numbers to the process mining graph, to the analyzer, as we call it. And on the other hand, exactly like you said, linking now so far unlinked processes and giving an understanding of how they are depending on each other. So that is, I think, the most important enhancement of object-centric process mining that we are getting closer and closer to this bigger picture. Yeah, so that is the next step of creating something like a digital twin of your corporation. We are getting closer and closer to it.
So would you recommend to people who think, oh, I think this process mining thing is not for me because it doesn't really reflect what I experience in everyday life, that they should maybe try OCPM instead, and then maybe get better results for their business analytics and process management?
Yeah, so especially in processes where we had different or a lot of object types that referred to one-to-many or many-to-many relations, yeah, that was an issue, definitely. And this issue is now far better to handle with the help of object-centric process mining. So it could be that, like, someone who has tried out the traditional process mining and didn't come to the point that they were saying, oh yes, that is exactly what we were looking for, should at least consider having a second look to it.
Okay, cool. So do you have, I know you have, but I need to lead up to this question. Do you have an example that you can show us to actually make this a little bit more plastic and relatable? Because I think like many people are probably able to follow us and in this argumentation, but I think it's going to be far more sensible to have a look at a real world example. And what I really want to get into afterwards is some other applications that you've seen in your time working with OCPM in comparison to the long tenure that you've had with process mining itself.
So what we are seeing here is basically, now I don't see you anymore. This is quite weird.
You know what I look like.
What we are now, I hope now what we were talking to without any visual surrounding now comes to more sense, as we are now having here exactly that example that I was referring to. Yeah, we have an invoice object, that is referring to all the invoices that were coming in. Then we have a goods object that is referring to all the sendings and all the parcels. Then we have the items and orders. And what we see here on the right side is then the different objects that are somehow being able to see independent, but nevertheless those objects have intersections where they collide. And that is exactly what we have here, for example. And what is the big difference in reading compared to a traditional process mining analysis? As we are now looking on those objects, we can see those one-to-many relations that were before one-to-one relations. So we have here, for example, an order. So we have the create order. So it's 12,124 orders that we are having in this sort of time frame. And when we see here something that is impossible to being viewed as this in the traditional way, where we have one create order activity can lead to many create purchase order item activities.
So the relationship now is 12,000 and 104,000. Normally this would have been either both 104,000 or both 12,000. And this already illustrates the sharpness that this actually brings to analyzing your processes, right?
And exactly this one-to-many relationship we can now view at every intersection that we are having. So every intersection that has different objects involved can be now shown as this. So we have the same one with the goods. So we have the items and the records goods received, and the same between the records goods received and the invoices. So we can see here now the true relations between the numbers of it. In the past, we were, for example, focusing as the case ID for the create purchase order item, and we leave this 104,000, then we would have distributed it up and down. So we would have created also 104,000 create order activities. Nevertheless, they are not there. They are just not 104,000 create orders. So there are not that many orders. In the past,
I understand.
In the past, we were in the need that we were creating KPIs, KPIs objects that were referring to the actual number of the underlying object.
Mhm.
So that was possible, but not in the analyzer.
All right, Grant. So if you zoom out a little bit, what we see here normally, I know like the traditional analyzer, you would only have one start and then it would go either branch out and recombine and stuff like that. But now we have a start for every one of these, let's call them classes or object tracks, right? Because it's not the object itself that we're seeing. We're seeing the different projects, processes that each object is involved in, right? And each of these tracks reflects one of these different classes, processes. So one goods handling, one order, one purchase item, one
each color reflects one object type.
Okay, grand. So first of all, I understand what Konstantin, our CPO, always means with colorful spaghetti, because this is what this definitely reflects. But it also shows that we can see all of these intersections between these different business processes that we have, right? And how one object would travel through these. And then we can find the process problems, the associated bottlenecks and things, not only in a single business process, but associated with standard objects going through our organization. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. And that is, like I was in the very beginning referring to two main parts where you can implement object-centric process mining and use it. Yeah, so this is within an end-to-end process that we are looking at here. To just make it better readable, better understandable. And on the other hand, we are having the capability to compare different end-to-end processes as well. Yeah, so now we have this purchase order object as an entire process, or what we had before clustered in several objects is now clustered in one object in order to compare different objects from different end-to-end processes. So we are now looking at this bigger picture that we were referring to. Yeah.
All right. So let us just. I think I understand what this means now and how it integrates different objects or object processes to enable you to track what you're actually doing a lot more better than with traditional process mining. So could you just elaborate a little bit on the ultimate value? Do you have some examples where this is exceptionally useful or creates customer value in a way?
Yeah. So what we have here, for example, I have now looked at what a new variant, an intersection between those first-hand independent looking processes is appearing, and this is basically a link up between different processes. Yeah, so we have this create sales order item. So a customer purchases something from us, and that was my example from the very beginning. We are creating a production order out of it because we don't have it at stock. Yeah, this production order, if we are following this path, is creating a purchase order requisition, which is then followed by a goods receipt. Yeah, so we are not able to produce it because we are out of stock, at all. Then we are bringing it to the assembly itself. When the product is assembled to a ready process, to a ready product, then we give it into the delivery. So we have here now the interdependence between different processes. That are normally we have a purchasing department, we have the production, we have the sales department, and of course everyone knows they are depending at some point to each other. But especially at those intersections, there lies often the big improvement potentials. Because those processes at the intersections are seldomly developed to the degree that they are within a department itself.
Yeah, I can imagine, because communication alone is often a problem at this point. I don't even want to imagine what it's going to be like if you have to transfer goods or actual pieces of labor along these lines, right? Yeah, okay. Well, thanks very much for this demo. We've got a question which actually ties in very well with where we want to go next. So I'll just take this, take the solution away and bring us back up. So we had a question in the chat asking, so if we're already using traditional process mining, how can we imagine the process to move to OCPM? It's brilliant, because I've got exactly this question for you next. So
what you are doing, I'm coming back to the ironing, yeah, because what we are doing with the ironing is basically bringing different object types together into one so-called event log. Yeah, the event log merges the different object types. And many customers that are executing traditional process mining today, they could relate to the step before the event log. Yeah, the whole data transformation takes place, and everyone calls them a little bit different, but we call them event sources. Yeah, so you have different event sources. Yeah, one is maybe the invoice related, one is the purchase document related, and so on. And those event sources are often already the perfect blueprint, yeah, for the object itself. And what we then do is bring those together in an OCPM event log type, where we have the old objects, yeah, and then an overall bracket, which is a link ID. Yeah, and this link ID brings then those different object types together in order that we can still follow this case related flow that you were referring to. Yeah?
Okay, so to maybe tie it together a little bit. So what I understood is, if you're already running process mining use cases, you can use these event logs that you already have in a way as a basis to create an OCPM base. So the way to migrate to OCPM is not too difficult if you're already running traditional process mining. So, and comparing setting up process mining and OCPM like just on a green field from pretty much having nothing means that you would have to do this, creating the event logs first, minus some labor that you wouldn't need to do because you're going into the direction of OCPM.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. So there are actually more questions in this one question. One of them is, are there any limitations to data sources? Do we have anything that we cannot connect to, or have you come across anything? There's only one correct answer.
Of course not, but so far, no. That's really a cool thing, and I can say it because it's like it is. Since I'm here at Mehrwerk, we were not able once to connect the data source. Yeah, so we have more than 150 connectors that we are bringing within mpmX, and so far all of those are being able to being in use. And what is very important, it's of course there are more than 150 source systems out there. Nevertheless, those connectors are connecting to standard databases, yeah, that can hold various applications. Plus, we are having standardized connectors that, for example, are REST connectors, yeah, and so on, which can be used for many different applications itself. Yeah, so just that number 150 does not relate to the absolute power of it in total. Yeah.
All right. So we've got another question that's coming, and I think this is quite interesting for everyone else. It's like, how can you handle process parts out of the system in the analysis, e.g., instead of using SAP or Excel for production planning, or emails instead of usage of purchase requests are used?
So everything that is not system based is basically, yeah, from a process mining standpoint, to be structured. Yeah. So we are referring to, when you talk about process mining itself, process mining refers mostly to structured data, which goes through a leading source system. Yeah. If you are looking for process activities that are being outside of those systems, those must be clustered or somehow at least gathered, and then can being like brought to the analysis system, which is the process mining. And this technique is basically called task mining. So task mining is a technique that is gathering desktop interactions from end users, and also uses some kind of advanced intelligence in order to cluster those activities to certain cases. You always need to refer back to an object, and within the object to an object ID, that it says this interaction was because of this purchase order, and this interaction was because of this parcel, and that is what would be done with task mining, and it spits out basically an event log in exactly that format that we would then like use inside of the process mining world.
All right, perfect. And I think so. Coming back to part of your question, Yasmin, is do we include functionality to automate parts of these processes? And I think this ties into this quite well, right? Because the execution component that we offer, so the X in mpmX, also allows you, except for excellence and all these other things that excellence stand for, is also including a way to automate processes, but also to bridge these manual gaps that you have. You shouldn't have them. You should be able to automate them in most cases, but sometimes you just need somebody to input a formula, or input like a number or a name or something like this. And this can also be bridged by functionality that we provide.
And I think to give it a little bit more context with the other question that we had. So what we can also do with this X in NPM is to digitalize the process. So that is often being neglected because everyone wants to automate everything. Nevertheless, a bad process which is not system-based, maybe the best way is not to automate it, to make a bot which can like cause some issues. But maybe the best way is to digitalize the entire track from A to B, so that not system-based part, and that is something that we have experience as well with.
All right, brilliant. Well, thanks a lot, Jan. We're coming to the end of our half hour. So what I want to leave you with as well is if you want to give OCPM a shot. So if you're already a customer either of mpmX or other process mining solution, we've already told you that we enable you to run OCPM based on what you already have. So we've got an upgrade pack at a reduced rate, or if you're not using OCPM yet or any process mining solution, then we also have a starter pack that will include these prices that we're currently showing you on screen. So it'd be 15,000 to just get started from nothing in a way, including a free trial. And then if you want to upgrade, already have licensees, we can set you up for just under 10 grand. And if you're not using mpmX yet, we will also be able to be entitled for a free trial. So as I understood it, Jan, but please correct me if I'm wrong, OCPM is a feature of our platform. It's not a paid add-on, correct?
Yeah. So, and that is a differentiator, at least to our knowledge, to the other competitors or the other market contenders that are doing OCPM as well. So it is included in the base fee. Yes.
All right. Grand. So if you're already a customer and you want to give it a shot, you can just either do it yourself or contact us to build your first use case using the upgrade pack. Or if you just want to give it a shot on whichever solution you already had, just give us a shot and we'll get you started there. So yeah, just a minute late. Thank you all for showing up and staying with us this afternoon. Also, thank you all for the very constructive questions leading us through this webinar. We'll be having the next In Focus event probably at the end of March. So give the mpmX LinkedIn page a follow to stay up to date on what's coming next. If you want to show this video to any of your colleagues or you want to come back, this event recording will be available on LinkedIn for the next 6 months through this event page and afterwards on our platform. All right. Thank you all and have a great day.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.